I know I'm going to make some people angry with what I have to say in this video, but please, at least hear what I have to say. With the announcement of the Snyder Cut, I was surprised when I saw a huge wave of people who cheered on social media. I never realised there were so many fans of Zack Snyder's DC films. This isn't even an appeal to popularity argument. I am seriously surprised anyone took Zack Snyder's DC films seriously. I never knew there were people that considered Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman as great films. After watching the films, I had the same reaction to what I had with The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, being pissed off seeing characters which I grew up with being destroyed in such horrific and disrespectful ways. I'm not kidding when I say Zack Snyder's treatment of the characters is no different than Rian Johnson. And no, being in a different continuity doesn't change how disrespectful it is to Superman's character. I have no issue with Henry Cavill. I love the guy. He's awesome. He's one of the most legitimately nice people you could ever find. He's a huge geek.
I was playing a game called World of Warcraft. I missed the call from Zack Snyder to tell me I got Superman.
But, like, did you hear the phone ringing?
I did.
And you chose to ignore it?
Absolutely.
He's even built his own computer, and he's completely understanding of the fans' criticisms, and actually defends them.
When it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
I have huge respect for him. I even look at the guy and think, I wish I could have a body like that. He perfectly fits the role of Superman. He looks the part, and I'm sure he could even act the part. The problem is, he's never truly given an opportunity to become this character. I actually feel sorry for him. If I had the opportunity to play Superman, one of the most iconic, hopeful heroes, and I was forced to play him as dark, depressing, and gloomy, I'd be pretty upset. I am very happy DC is moving away from these films. It's just a shame they could be going somewhere even worse, though I don't know what is worse than this. And now the opportunity for Henry Cavill to play an accurate, well-written depiction of Superman now seems to be a lost opportunity which is no longer available to us. Zack Snyder is certainly not a terrible person, but I'm a media critic. No matter how great of a person you are, that doesn't affect how I review your media, and I can't let bias get in the way. The defense of these films are the exact same non-argument you'll find defending the sequel trilogy, and I'm going to cut them off at the roots. I have seen people unironically say, you don't understand the themes of Man of Steel, to dismiss valid criticisms of the film, especially when relating to the annoying, misplaced Christian symbolism. This defense isn't even saying why the original criticism is false. It's just a lazy dismissal. You can totally defend the film. That's not the issue. I can't just defend the Clone Wars saying you don't understand the deep themes of individuality. I actually have to explain why someone is wrong. It's called making an argument. And it's okay to like bad media. You don't need to bend over backwards to defend it. I really enjoy Venom and Shazam, but I won't defend their terrible writing. You need to learn to separate your enjoyment from your judgment of the craft. I really love the Clone Wars, but if someone is right about the problems in that show, instead of dismissing their valid criticisms, I have to actually accept the other person is right. This video isn't going to be a video going over all the horrible writing of Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, though I may one day make a review of Man of Steel in the future. It is just terrible.
I will find him!
Man of Steel was not inspiring.
Now that's just hurtful.
You blinked. Peace, I'm out!
It's going to be hard to resist going over all the horrible writing in this film, and I'm going to try and stay relevant to Superman's character and not get sidetracked by things like the disgusting H.R. Geiger inspired Kryptonian technology, or their dumb explanation of how the Kryptonians died. I'm also going to try my best to avoid going over Zod's character, because that is also horrific.
Where did you train? On a farm?
The purpose of this video is to purely go over why the material is a horrible adaptation of Superman, and maybe a little bit of poor writing to be icing on the cake. I acknowledge the adaptation argument doesn't mean this film is poorly written, even though it is. It just means that this character is not Superman. It only feels right to start at the beginning, or somewhere close to it. Jonathan tells Clark not to save a bus full of children from drowning.
What was I supposed to do? Just let them die?
Maybe.
You should maybe let children die, and I am just speechless. This is one of the biggest red flags in the film. What kind of person thinks you should maybe let children die? Even out of context of this keeping his identity secret, how the hell is sitting back and letting kids die the right thing to do in any situation? How is that the thing you tell your son? Even if you say the film presents him as wrong, this makes Jonathan Clark out to be a horrible father, when Jonathan and Martha were fantastic and loving parents to Clark.
Clark, when people are scared, they have a tendency to hop on a bandwagon before they see who's driving it. But when they wise up, what matters is that you'll be there for them, leading by example, just like always. Truth, justice, and the American way. It ain't broke, so don't fix it.
Jonathan Kent was the moral mentor for Clark. He is where Superman gets his morality and his sense of right. If you want to make the argument that he's saying this to protect Clark and the world from the discovery of alien life, there are no repercussions for this in the film. Superman reveals himself, he shows himself doing supernatural things like being on fire. That's not how fire works, and nothing happens. Also, Superman is supposed to be hopeful and optimistic, not dreary and depressing. Then you have another line in the film saying you have to decide what kind of man you want to be, Clark, and he's telling him he should be the kind of man to fucking let kids die. The scene would make more sense if it was about something trivial, not about letting kids die. They almost get Superman right in one scene. Almost. The scene where he stands up to the men harassing the woman in the bar. He stops them, and he does nothing when they start to humiliate him. The problem is, this lady has to hold him back.
It's not worth it, sweetie.
He should stop himself from retaliating because he knows it's the wrong thing to do. Even without his powers, and he was just a strong, muscular man, he should still have the strength to walk away from this conversation without knocking this guy on his ass. Though I do not know why this guy is picking a fight with big, muscular Henry Cavill. Clark decides to be the bigger man, he lets it go, and he leaves. Or so we thought, because after that, he completely destroys the guy's truck. Almost comically. Yeah, he was an asshole, but Clark just destroyed his entire livelihood. It makes Clark out to be extremely petty. He couldn't just walk away and be the bigger man in the situation. It takes away from Clark's character if he couldn't even restrain himself to not go ape on this guy's truck. What if he had a family to feed? Clark would never do this. He is not vengeful or petty. Not to mention, how the hell did no one see or hear Clark destroying this guy's truck? Later on in the film, it's strange that Clark has had these powers his entire life, and he's only learning to fly 40 minutes into the film. What exactly has changed to allow him to fly, if he couldn't before? It's a cool sequence, even though the cinematography is a little bit crap. It just doesn't make much sense. Especially with how quickly Zod learns his powers within a few minutes of being in Earth's atmosphere. But then, that doesn't make much sense either.
The sun is younger and brighter than Krypton's was. Your cells are drunk in its radiation, strengthening your muscles. Earth's gravity is weaker, yet its atmosphere is more nourishing.
This explanation does not fit with what we see in the rest of the film. They establish the Kryptonian atmosphere cancels out the effects of the sun.
The strength you derive from your exposure to the Earth's sun has been neutralized. Here, in this environment, you're as weak as a human.
This is suggesting they're going with the classic explanation of his powers coming from the sun and nothing else. But then, how is it cancelled out by Kryptonian air? How does reintroducing Earth's air without the sun give his powers back? How does gravity or the Earth's atmosphere even come into this at all? Earth's atmosphere has nothing to do with this because he has his powers perfectly fine in space. And the Kryptonians seem to have perfectly normal gravity because Lois has no problem on their ship. None of this makes any sense. Then, there is the one scene that really takes the cake. Just a few lines.
Your family, not mine. I don't even know why I'm listening to you. You're not my dad. You're just some guy who found me in a field.
Clark would never say this. He's not some edgy teenager going through puberty. Jonathan Kent is Clark's father. He raised him. That's who his family is. Clark would never say, "You're not my dad." He's better than that. Superman is a paragon. He's larger than life. He is an inspirational figure. You don't need to stain his character by making him act like an edgy teenager just to tell a good story. Then again, you didn't even exactly tell a good story. Scenes like this really show that Zack doesn't understand Clark's character. Let's see how the DC animated shows portrayed Superman with his family.
Clark,
Hi, Ma. Pa. Merry Christmas.
have you been eating, dear? You look thin.
Oh, Ma. Good to have you home again, son.
It's good to be back.
Oh, we're no strangers to aliens in this house. Okay, everybody, I'm turning on the Christmas tree.
Pa, that's my job.
They were loving, sweet, and kind. Superman is so kind, he's often referred to as the Boy Scout because of how naive he is.
This little guy was crazy for Christmas. We used to wrap his presents in lead foil so he couldn't peek.
You mean Santa wrapped them?
Oh, of course, dear.
And that doesn't even make him bland or a Mary Sue. Making Superman so dark and edgy, you lose out on him being the light and the hope in the dark world, the thing he's supposed to represent, the best of humanity.
I found my parents, my people.
See what I mean? This isn't even an edgy thing in his teen years. Clark legitimately doesn't see himself as human, and he doesn't see Jonathan and Martha as his parents. The Kryptonians were not Clark's people. Clark never needed to find his people, where he came from, or his parents. He's human. He grew up in Kansas. His parents are Jonathan and Martha Kent. That's what's important.
Are those people even your parents?
They are, but, you know, it's complicated.
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
The whole S being a symbol of hope is very stupid. It also is an example of how Clark constantly sees himself as Kryptonian rather than human, as he sees Krypton as his world. He doesn't see his world as Earth. Man of Steel constantly plays up the fact that Clark is an alien, when one of the core elements of Clark's character is, well, he's human. Maybe not biologically, but he grew up on a farm in Kansas. His parents were Jonathan and Martha Kent.
You're from another planet! My boyfriend's from another planet.
Listen, Lois, I'm just a guy from a small town who wants to do the right thing.
The fact he's not human is also constantly played up in the stupid Christian symbolism, which is extremely misplaced. In more ways than not, Superman is actually more psychologically human than Batman, because Batman never got to grow up normal because of his childhood trauma. Batman is the man, while Bruce Wayne is the disguise. Clark Kent is Superman, and his real name is not Kal-El.
I've never seen this side of you, Clark.
That's why I like coming home for the holidays. I can just relax and be myself.
Now on to one of the most painful parts of Man of Steel. Not because of the emotional weight, but because of how insulting it is. Not only does Jonathan run to a storm and die pointlessly for a bloody dog, it's done in such a contrived way. Why does he go back into the storm when Clark could have easily done the job? Clark just stands back and watches his father die. It's so dumb and insulting. Jonathan doesn't even try to save himself. He just gives up. Clark would never stand by and let his father die. He doesn't need to expose himself to save him. He could easily just run up and protect him and wait for the storm to pass over. Fucking anything else than just letting him die. And there was so much time where Clark was just standing around where he could just go and save him without even needing to use any of his superpowers. What kind of hopeful hero sits back and lets anyone die when it is perfectly within their ability? It is so bleak and depressing. Compare this to the traditional way that Jonathan Kent died. He doesn't die in some grand parade. He dies of a heart attack. It is much more powerful that despite Superman's powers, he could do nothing to save his father. It grounds him because despite his powers, he cannot do everything, and he can't save everyone.
All those things I can do. All those powers. And I couldn't even save him.
Here, he just lets his father die, despite it being perfectly within his abilities, and he's got no problem with just saving anyone else. Again, this is not how fire works. And as I just mentioned, he doesn't even have to reveal himself to save him. It's just so nonsensical. How does this moment even add to Superman's character, other than to just be dramatic? The answer is, it doesn't.
Zod can't be trusted. The problem is, I'm not sure if the people of Earth can be either.
Clark, these are your people. You are from Earth. Why does Superman have such a nihilistic view of people?
I don't believe that the world is broken, because when we say the world, we're really talking about people. And it's always been my belief that people, at their core, are good. The grace of mankind is everywhere. You just have to open your eyes.
Now, the next thing to mention is the massive amount of insane destruction in Man of Steel. It is the equivalent of 1 billion 9/11s.
He saved us.
Did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Even ignoring Metropolis for a moment, he destroys Smallville. He is entirely responsible for taking Zod there. He even directly destroys a gas station. Yeah, because Superman brought this fight here, now there are tons of people dying. People we just saw evacuate the streets into the buildings, which we are now seeing being destroyed. Superman throws a bloody guy into a train yard, which explodes. Who knows who was working there that day?
Release the
For every human you save, we will kill 1 million more.
Oh, so, not that many then. Sweet. In the film, it doesn't make sense why Superman can't stand up to the unpowered Kryptonians in their power suits. What's the point in them gaining powers if their suits are better? Superman should be wiping the floor with them. You could have Superman defeat them in their suits, and that's the reason why they take off the suits to gain their superpowers. And during these fights, Superman doesn't even seem to care about civilian casualties. He saves one guy from a helicopter and lets the rest die. You can't even use the excuse of what else was Superman supposed to do. This excuse ignores the fact that there are billions of other ways you can write scenes. You can make entirely different scenes and sequences. There is an insane amount of creative freedom. You can simply put Superman in a much better position where he isn't responsible for so much death. As I explained before, if you make them in their power suits a hell of a lot less powerful, it makes a lot less need for destruction. And maybe don't have Superman responsible for creating a black hole in the middle of Metropolis. And maybe don't have Superman crash a ship in the middle of the city. You can even look as far as Iron Man vs. Hulk in Age of Ultron. It's a heavily populated area, and Iron Man is doing everything he can to make sure there are no civilians who are killed. Even making sure that buildings are evacuated before he destroys them.
How quickly can we buy this building?
Zach, you don't need to write so much mass destruction in your film. You don't need to write these buildings collapsing, crushing thousands of people, and I don't understand why you have put so much death and destruction in your film, other than to make it dark and edgy. It doesn't even work narratively for this level of destruction in your very first film, which is pretty much your equivalent of Iron Man 1. How the hell are you supposed to raise your stakes after this? You don't even need the world engine in Metropolis. Hell, you don't even need the world engine at all. It makes no bloody sense why Zod wants to turn Earth into a less hospitable planet.
You came from Krypton, a world with a much harsher environment than Earth's.
He could also terraform any other planet. And with the level of destruction in this film, I haven't even mentioned the fight with Zod yet. Superman throws Zod into a skyscraper. Who fucking knows who was in that skyscraper before you destroyed it? So much for years of pain to get your abilities, huh? He got those pretty quickly. And what I would suggest is that instead of having 1,000 9/11s every time one of them gets punched through a building, maybe have the building stay intact and no one die? That would be a very easy way to have a lot less death and destruction in your movie. They even take the fight up into space and somehow it goes directly back to Metropolis. Well, that was improbable, considering it's more likely that they would just, drop back down into the middle of nowhere. And now onto one of the most memeable parts of this film.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. ideal to strive towards.
Superman killing Zod. What a great message for your Superman movie. Oh, you got a problem? Snap their bloody neck.
Oh, if you ever need any help with a Dalek or something. Oh, I don't think that would be necessary. Why not? You see, it's hard to snap a Dalek neck when they don't have necks to begin with. Oh, snap. More like no snap. See what I did there? You're all right, Mr. Doc. You guys are never gonna let that go, are you?
So much for finding another way.
I heard a child say that he wanted to be in the elite when he grows up because it would be fun to kill bad guys. Fun to kill. People have to know that there's another way.
I am sorry. There is no way you can defend the scene. This entire situation makes no sense. The people are not moving out of the way despite having plenty of opportunity. Superman has already caused thousands of deaths at this point. This family isn't exactly going to make that much of a difference, especially since Clark has already been characterized as not caring about civilian casualties. If you have the strength and the ability to snap someone's neck, you also have the strength and the ability to move their head away, cover their eyes, knock them out, and especially if they're in a chokehold. Superman can also fly away and take Zod away from here where he can't hurt anyone. People who defend this act like there was nothing else Superman could do and there was no other way this could be written. Even if you're going to say there was no other way for Superman to defeat Zod, we go back to the whole thing of this being a written media. You can write your characters into different situations where Superman can win this fight. Superman is supposed to be hopeful. Superman is supposed to find another way. Imagine for a second how much more powerful of a moment you could make if Superman wasn't responsible for so much death and destruction. If it was just him and Zod. Superman is about to kill Zod. Zod keeps taunting him, trying to push him to kill. And Superman was so deeply moral, he couldn't do it. He just leaves Zod defeated. And the government takes Zod in, they put him in a cell full of the atmosphere of his own ship, depowering him. Someone asks Superman why he didn't kill Zod, and he's replied, "I had to show the world there was a better way of solving their problems." Now that is a hopeful and inspirational character. But now we get back to the Zod fight we actually did get. In this film, it makes no sense why Zod is as powerful as Superman. Funnily enough, they were more powerful in their power suits than when they were actually superpowered. Zod has only had these powers for a few minutes, and Clark has had them his entire life. It is very obvious who has the advantage here, but this film acts like they're evenly matched somehow. And hell, if you really can't have Clark defeat Zod without breaking his character, then maybe don't have this be the antagonist your protagonist fights in your very first film. Hell, I think you could even have a character story about Clark becoming Superman without having an antagonist. It would be hard, but I think it is completely possible. Not all conflicts have to revolve around an antagonist. What is even more insulting is that Superman is not even upset for the thousands of deaths he is directly responsible for. He relates to the deaths of murderous Kryptonians more than he does innocent people from the planet he grew up on. Look at the reaction of the real Superman just from one death he didn't even cause. Superman cares very deeply for all life. If you want an argument why Superman and Batman should not kill, I'll give you one. The context for DC heroes is very different to the Marvel heroes you'll see in the MCU. When Iron Man fights terrorists, that is very different. His morals and what he stands for are different. The same with Captain America. Captain America is a soldier fighting Nazis, fighting in a war. It is a lot more acceptable for these people to kill. But with Batman and Superman, they are two different symbols for justice. They act within the law to stop mainly criminals. It is not their place to be judge, jury, and executioner. It is for the law to decide what to happen to them, not Batman or Superman, especially when stopping people like the Joker, Mr. Freeze, and Lex Luthor.
You had the power to end Atomic Skull's criminal career right there, permanently. Why didn't you?
I'm not anyone's judge and jury, Professor Baxter. Definitely not an executioner. My powers don't put me above the law.
It is more heroic to have your heroes stand for morals. You can even put them to the test. If your heroes have no morals, what is there to test? This is even something they play upon within The Dark Knight.
I have one rule. Oh, then that's the rule you have to break. suffering. The only sensible way to live in this world is without rules. And tonight, you're gonna break your one rule.
It makes a lot less sense for Batman to kill, especially to kill using guns. Batman has deep childhood trauma from the loss of his parents, which were killed with a gun. He should hate them. From Batman's point of view, the reason why he does all this is to stop what happened to him happening to anyone else. And it would be completely contradictory for him to go out there and kill criminals. Criminals which might have families. He could be orphaning or widowing people. It would essentially make him their equivalent of Joe Chill. What kind of heroes would Batman and Superman be if they just went around killing everyone without trial? It's also a lot more badass to watch Batman beat up people with his fists, rather than just going around mowing people down with guns. Another thing that's worth mentioning is how Zack Snyder treats characters like Jimmy Olsen and Mercy Graves. They're iconic, well-beloved Superman characters who are killed brutally and are thrown to the side like they don't even matter. Kind of like what Ryan Johnson did to Admiral Akbar. I know the standard defense is that this isn't the same thing as Last Jedi, because this isn't a continuation of the continuity of any previous depiction of Superman. But that doesn't change how disrespectful this is to Superman, because this is how Zack sees him. This is how Zack wants to show him to the world. By calling him Superman, he is saying that Superman is childish, petty, uncaring, nihilistic, and perfectly fine with killing.
You can't murder people and call yourselves heroes. We are not above the law. We have to show the world that there's a better way. The people can be better.
And this is not an Elseworlds depiction. This is their main line of films. And you don't do something like Red Sun for your main line of continuity. It's called an Elseworlds comic for a reason. I've also heard the argument that Superman is not Superman yet, to defend why he breaks character so much. Superman is not in his prime, he'll get there in the later films. This is very reminiscent of the argument that was used to defend The Force Awakens when people said, "Don't worry, all your criticisms will be solved in the next movie." And I really would wish people would stop using lame excuses to dismiss valid arguments. Even if we accept this lame excuse, this should not change Superman's powers, his nobilities, or his morals, because Clark doesn't certainly gain morality or nobility the moment he becomes Superman. This argument is also a little bit reminiscent of the TLJ defense by dismissing contradictory character moments by saying, it makes sense because of time. Even if it was true, this is like having Iron Man or Captain America not be Iron Man or Captain America in the end of their very first films. It doesn't make any narrative sense in an origin film to not have your superhero be the superhero by the end of the film. And possibly one of the most retarded arguments I've heard is that Zack Snyder turned Superman from a Mary Sue to a more interesting and flawed character. If you think that Superman is in any way a Mary Sue, you have not seen any other Superman material. Or you don't even know what a Mary Sue is. Being a powerful and hopeful character doesn't make one a Mary Sue. It also doesn't make a character bland. A Mary Sue is a character whose world's rules constantly bend around them, to make them the amazing exception to those rules. See Rey or Captain Marvel. Zack Snyder's depiction of Superman is in no way interesting. Just being dark, moody, edgy, and nihilistic is not in itself deep. And all this destruction and nihilism in this film means nothing. Darkness is supposed to be a tool you use to explore areas which you cannot explore in lighter fields. You can use it for questions of morality or meaning. Is it really worth doing something for the greater good? If you want to write a dark Superman film, you essentially need to do what Deep Space Nine did in The Pale Moonlight. A deeply moral character is in a dark and difficult situation. He has good intentions, which slowly lead him down a path challenging more and more of his morals. His actions inadvertently lead to the deaths of two people who were killed behind his back in order to hide the conspiracy which would ultimately save the entire Alpha Quadrant from the Dominion.
Get up! You killed him! That's right.
That's what you planned to do all along, isn't it? You knew the data rod wouldn't hold up to scrutiny. You just wanted to get him on the station so that you could plant a bomb on his shuttle. And what about Tolar? Did you kill him too?
Think of them both as tragic victims of war. If you can allow your anger to subside for a moment, you'll see that they did not die in vain. The Romulans will enter the war.
There's no guarantee of that!
Sisko, a deeply moral character, now has to live with what he has done for the greater good.
You may have just saved the entire Alpha Quadrant, and all it cost was the life of one Romulan senator, one criminal, and the self-respect of one Starfleet officer. I don't know about you, but I'd call that a bargain.
This is a dark and deep episode. It is not edgy, it doesn't break Sisko's character, and it is in no way disrespectful to him. Deep Space Nine is a generally good example of how you handle moral characters in dark situations. I have to look back at all this and question, how the hell did we get to this point? We now have B-list heroes like Iron Man being far more popular than Superman and Batman, who used to be iconic household names. DC had the advantage in every sense, and they dropped the ball hard. They let Marvel kick their asses, and now it's a shame that so many people see Superman and Batman as dark, brooding, horribly written characters. In reality, they are some of the best superheroes you could find. And the reason why the general public now has these ideas of Superman and Batman being lame is purely because of Zack Snyder's films. It wasn't long before him that The Dark Knight was being heralded as one of the best superhero films. You can perfectly enjoy Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's films. As I keep telling everyone, your enjoyment is separate from the quality, and I'm not ashamed to say when I like bad media. You're also free to disagree with me, and tell me why you disagree with me. Just don't use lazy dismissals like calling me a Marvel fanboy, because I'm not. In conclusion, even though we have such a talented actor playing Superman, it's such a shame that this is a complete wasted opportunity. That this Superman is not even a hero. He's a horrible, nihilistic, unfeeling, sociopathic piece of shit who's responsible for so much death. How can that be Superman? This video was a lot of work, and this setup isn't cheap. If you want to support my work, then you can support me through Streamlab donations and Patreon. Even if you cannot financially support me, leaving a like, comment and sharing my video really does help you within the algorithm, so more people can see my work for themselves and I can grow my audience. The reason why it helps me in the algorithm is that you're telling YouTube you loved my video so much you've interacted with it twice, and you shared it, which means YouTube is more likely to share my video with others. If you want to chat and socialise, my official Discord is in the description. I hang in there often, and if you want to see what I'm up to, there's always Twitter. I often release clips there and outtakes early, just for the hell of it. Thank you all for watching, and this is Shiny, signing off.